slow and low key, you know. Oh my goodness, it threw me. I thought we were going to deliberate about the talk, the tick, and okay, all right, I'm with it, I'm rolling. Thank you for having me here today. People respond. I know what you're thinking when you look at this picture. I'm pretty sure I know. You're going, damn, those are good shoes. Yeah, and I'm wearing something like that too, and you know what? These are not really for wearing. They're just for show. So the rest of the time, I'm just gonna take this off. All right, excellent. All right. Let's see. I'm gonna start our little time together here with a profound statement. I'm a writer. Can I have some applause, please? I'm a writer. Ta-da! And then I have a question for you. What are you? It's not a rhetorical question. What are you? Chiropractic intern. What are you? Chiropractic student. What are you? Chiropractor. Anyone in the room not a chiropractor? 1, 2. What are you?
Whatever she wants me to be.
Oh, good answer. You get points for that too. All right, excellent. I was pretty much assuming we would mostly say chiropractor, right? I am not just a writer. And I want to know what else you are other than a chiropractor. What kind of chiropractor are you? Because I would like to say, and this is another bold statement, I'm a beautiful writer. God damn, did she just put a picture up and call herself beautiful? Yes, I did. Who's going to own that with me? Come on, ladies, you know. I'm also an unexpected and unconventional writer. We don't usually put pictures like that up of ourselves, do we? I'm a professional writer. I'm an animated writer. Nothing too calm and collected about me, generally. I'm also a proud, strong Māori writer. I'm a wine-drinking writer. Any wine-drinking chiropractors in here? We keep those two things pretty safely separate, I'm sure, but you know. I'm also an overly confident, apparently I like to have my photograph taken writer. But most of all, I'm a dorky, business-running writer. And I own all of those parts of who I am, and they're all part of the way that I present myself to the world. Fairly unashamedly these days, I must say, even though it's a little strange. So I want to know, what kind of chiropractor are you? You know what kind of person you are. And I love the passion that I'm feeling, and I love that chiropractors are huggy people. I feel like I've found my people. Yay! So you could say I'm a huggy chiropractor. Anyone in the room wouldn't say they were a huggy chiropractor? We must have some exceptions to that rule, surely. That would be you. I've seen you hug at least 3 people today. Peer pressure. Peer pressure. So let's talk about it. I want you to have a quick chat with the person beside you. I'm going to play some music so you can get all comfortable. What are some of the words that you use to describe yourself? Maybe words that you don't usually pair up with the term chiropractor. Are you a hilarious chiropractor? I'm pretty sure lots of you are passionate chiropractors. Let's think of some words. Ready? think you could have kept talking for a while. I tried to stick my head into some conversations and people are like, we haven't got any words yet. I'm like, come on, people. You know you. Let's give me some words. Okay, I would like to hear some. Anyone want to throw out a word? I'm a something chiropractor.
Energetic.
I'm an energetic chiropractor. There we go. Love it. Who's next?
Animated.
Animated. Yeah, we should high five that one. Distance high five. Excellent. Anybody else? Come on, give me some more words.
Loving.
A loving chiropractor. See, I feel that from you guys. It's nice. Excellent. Another word?
Prolific.
A prolific chiropractor. I love that word. Beautiful. Give me some more. Something over here.
Funny.
A funny chiropractor. Beautiful. Someone towards the back over here. Haven't picked on you guys yet. I'm smiling. She's like, no, I have no words.
Smiling.
Pass it on. Pass it to the person next to you. Tab, you're in.
A sarcastic.
A sarcastic chiropractor. I have a great appreciation for that. Excellent. So my next question to you then is, of all of those words that you might use to describe yourself, that you may not have considered pairing together with the word chiropractor before, at what point do people know that about you? Now I am thinking, I bring a business lens to, and a branding and a marketing kind of lens to our discussion today, to a certain extent. So I am thinking, at what point do the people that you work with know this about you? I want to use the right term. Clients, practice members, not patients, I know that. Who you work with, who you adjust, what do you call them? People. Then that's even better. At what point do people know that about you? So you've got some words. I'm a something chiropractor. At what point do people learn that about you? Don't have another discussion now. I've got another song lined up. Feel free to dance. I'm going to. You can dance and talk at the same time. Do they learn that about you? Do they learn that you are a sarcastic chiropractor? Do they learn that you are an energetic, animated chiropractor? Do they learn that you're a funny? Was it funny in the back? Yes, someone said funny. There we go. Do they learn that about you? Why do they? Or why don't they? I'm not saying that there's a right or a wrong. I'm just wondering, have we thought about it before? Could they get to know you earlier? Could they get to know you better? I'm going to play some music. Have another chat. Oh, how and when? Let's see, there was another one. Go.
And go. Okay, what point
some levels of consciousness, like yes, in my practice I've consciously chosen to show people who I am at a very early stage, which I'm excited about because that's clearly something that I try to do. I'd love to hear back from you. I'd love to hear some ideas. Would anyone like to share your kind of general response to these questions? And you guys are not brave. Where's our courage? Thank you so much.
I find that it's different for every person that you see. Some people will not open up to you, so it's really hard for me to open up to them, whether it's my peers or people in the chiropractic center. So it really depends on the person. I'm a massage therapist. I've seen someone for like 2 years and they still haven't opened up to me. They still just like, oh yeah, it's just the same old, get on the table. That's it.
It's transactional.
Yeah. So that determines a lot.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes.
I realized from that questioning that I might pretend to be somebody I'm not. Really.
Am I allowed to say that loud enough for others to hear? Realization I might be pretending to be something I'm not, or someone that I'm not, to an extent. I love that. Do you want to tell me a bit more?
I think that I pretend to be a little bit more personal than I actually feel in the center.
Can anyone relate to that? I try to put on a good professional front. Not me. No, we just don't even bother. Excellent. Sorry.
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that.
I try and find a way to connect with somebody very quickly, meet them where they're at, and make a connection with them.
Beautiful. Love it. So you have a conscious decision. I want to do that. Range of ways of doing it. Beautiful. Anyone over this side? Any responses? What about our prolific chiropractor? May I ask you what you thought about these questions?
I could do more to take myself out of my comfort zone and reach the essence of the being.
Thank you. One more. Can I ask one more person to share? I'm going to ask Dr. Lance. It's Lance, isn't it?
Yeah.
I know you've heard it before, but I heard some good stuff over here. Would you share what you were thinking about in response to these questions?
I'm a needs-based family chiropractor, so how I introduce that is a lot of conversation about how I check my son. So I'm constantly saying, oh, I was just checking my son last night and adjusted him, and oh, this time I checked him, he didn't need to get adjusted. And so they're constantly hearing that concept, and it's within a safe space because it's not someone they know maybe. And the needs-based, there's a direct and an indirect. The indirect is in the entire process trying to use needs-based language, trying to understand what fundamental needs they have, and maybe tease out a little bit more about it. And then at our health talks, I'll do some education on needs-based communication, whether it's nonviolent communication or emotional intelligence or things like that. So we drop it into the more how they can also participate.
Nice. Thank you so much. Awesome. We're going to pause your thinking that you've started. We're going to do more reflection afterwards, because what I really want us to think about is our authentic selves. And do we bring as much of our authentic selves into our practice as we could? And do we show the world who our authentic self is? Because I truly, truly believe that if we do that in a purposeful and considered way, that we get huge benefits from that. And it's our authentic selves that connect with people. And that's good for you being able to accomplish the things that I hear that you want to do, which is help people be well, take care of people, share the love and the hugs, and all the joy and all the good stuff. So it's story time. Are we comfortable? Are we ready for a little story? Yes. Nobody moved, just me. That's okay, I can do all the moving. But to tell the story, we need to go right back to the beginning. Not quite that far. She was cute though, wasn't she? I'm not sure what happened, but yeah. Let's just go back to 2012. In 2012, I was at home on Great Barrier Island, which is where my whānau is from, and this is our marae, our marae. And I was at the marae. I was going through a little bit of a midlife crisis. Now, at this point, if anyone in the room could say, Shelly, you're too young to have a midlife crisis, that would be really kind. Anyone want to? No. Oh, okay. All right, excellent. Then I'm just going to own my midlife crisis. I had shaved my head, and I had gone through, I had made a whole bunch of really drastic changes in my life very suddenly. And my nana had asked me to be on our hapu trust board, so be involved in our family affairs at that kind of level. And that's why I was over on Great Barrier Island. And I met a man there whose name was Victor Main, and he ran business writing trainings. He went into companies how to do all the writing that we have to do on a daily basis better. Emails, reports, communications with customers, clients, whatever. Everything that we have to do, we spend a lot more time writing than we really think about. And basically, the long story short, he gave me that business. Just handed it over to me. He'd been looking for someone that could take over. He didn't want to get anything out of it other than to keep his clients happy, take care of them, know that they were being put in good hands, and he handed it over to me. Now, admittedly, look, that's going back a wee way too. Admittedly, when he handed that over to me, I had the qualifications. I had 20 years of experience as a teacher and a writer, and I was ready to walk through that door once he opened it. But what I didn't have was a company, so I had to set up a company for myself. And I did what most of us do when we establish a company, a business entity. I gave it a name that was really, really meaningful to me. It wasn't really meaningful to my clients anyway, let's put it that way. So why Auto Design? I'm Ngāti Wai, that means people of the water. Why? Water. That's the beginning of that word there. That's something that's really important to me. And as a writer, and I think that I'm creative, in the flow of creativity, then the water was a metaphor for that. Water, you probably know, means life or well-being, wellness, health. So this was about my ability as a mother to provide for my family through my writing. I was putting my family in a space of well-being through my skills as a writer, and that felt like a real accomplishment. So that's why I named my business Why Auto Design. Design because I could design documents and I could design trainings for you. Now, what did everybody think when they saw this? Are you a graphic designer? Yes, that's what they all thought. I don't think it was too bad in terms of a name and a logo. I then took my first corporate headshot. We all got, some photographs of ourselves for our profiles, our bios, all that. We love those. I was having a midlife crisis, remember? It's not really my best look. But 5 years ago, that's where I was. I remember this day well. I was at home. It was about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I hadn't showered yet, and somebody needed some promotional material immediately, and I needed a photo. So I put on, I think I've got like pajama bottoms on, but I put on a nice dressy top, no makeup, no hair done, put some earrings on, because that always makes you look dressed up, right? And my sister took this photo of me. Then I needed a website. Oh, dang it, I thought I remembered what came next. Then I got put in front of these clients. They were some big names. I was a little bit terrified. I was little old Shelly, the high school teacher. And here I was telling pilots at Air New Zealand how to write better. It made me want to cry just a little bit sometimes. But I rolled with it, because I'm like, I take opportunities that arrive at my doorstep, and then I needed to create a website. So there's my first website. It wasn't too terrible for at the time, but I thought it was quite pretty, and put services in there that I thought that I would be doing. I thought that I was going to do a whole lot more work with Māori than I ended up doing. There's another story around that. Then I realised that I needed to rebrand. After 2 years of trying to promote this name, Why Auto Design, that no one could connect with because they couldn't spell it, they couldn't say it, they kept looking up Wairoa because it's a place. And then they're like, we can't find your company. So I thought, okay, people like me for my trainings and it's me. So I'm just going to use my name, Shelly Davies Writing and Training. So there was a second website. I've only been doing this for 5 years. We're up to website number 2 yet so far. The hair wasn't great, nor was the functionality of the website. So less than a year later, we're up to website number 3. Website number 3 had more of a corporate feel. It was pretty true to me. I felt like I'd done a pretty good job at presenting my authentic self to the world, but it was a bit watered down. It worked. It got me business, got people interested in what I had to offer. But then towards the end of last year, I was with Kathmandu down in Christchurch. And 2 times on the same day, different people said to me, Shelly, you need some new photos on your website. And I thought about that, and I said, yeah, tell me about that. Because, those photos are really only about a year old, and I know I've changed my hair, but, tell me more about where you're coming from. Because I don't think they're that bad. I thought it was quite pretty, actually. And they said, when you're in the room with us, we get this rock star vibe. And we don't get that at all from your website. And I was like, it's time for some new photos. I was down with that. Let's do a rock star photo shoot. I can rock that, I'm sure. But as soon as, and meeting me and always wanting to be my very, very best. As soon as I thought about the new photos and how that was going to present myself to the world and how people would receive that, I couldn't just tack them onto this. I needed a different voice that matched the photos. I needed a different structure and a different way of interacting with the people who came to check me out. And that brought us, just in January of this year, to this, which is really not the kind of image that people have in mind when they think of a writer. Just a little bit out there. It's all right, I can admit that, just a little bit out there. But what I wanted to talk to you about today was how did I get from this midlife crisis, recently bald, no makeup, unshowered, half-dressed little old school teacher suffering from a terrible case of imposter syndrome, Shelly, to, are you ready for it? Because I really want you to dance with me for this one. It's just a little giggle. I was really kind of hoping for something, you know, to turn it up. We can clap. It's right. We're all funny at a time. That's all right. At least my little eye of the tiger. It's a good thing. I'm going to say that was a reflection on you guys, not me. Let's go with that. What happened during a short 5-year window to take me from that previous picture to what I'm doing now? And what I'm doing now is that I'm winning government contracts. I get phone calls from people that have seen my website and they're not looking for more information and asking questions about what I can do for them. They kind of get on the phone and go, well, we just kind of want you. Can you come to us in Wellington or Christchurch or wherever it is? And I go, of course. And it's pretty much a done deal. And it's surprising me because they already know exactly what they're getting. They have already, at some stage, if they don't like what they see, filtered themselves out of the process. And I haven't needed to be involved in that. And that works just fine for me. They've looked, they know what they're getting, and they know whether it's for them or not. It also means that when they approach me, I don't get emails and phone calls from people in their very best, most professional voices. I don't get emails that say, hello Shelly, we are an organisation that does X, Y, and Z, and we wonder if you might provide us with some information about your business because we need to improve it. I don't get that. They go, hey Shelly, you look freaking awesome. Will you come and work with us? And I go, yes. They interact differently with me because of what I have shown them of myself. And I think that the thing that has taken me on this journey really, really quickly to a point where I'm getting the big contracts, where I'm the main competitor for a company that's been doing this for 26 years and they have 50 staff and it's just me. That's what's done it. I truly, truly believe that. Now, I'm not at all suggesting that everyone needs to be a rock star. That whole, out there in your face, dancey, entertaining, failing at the eye of the tiger music, that's my authentic self. Your authentic self is something else, but the authenticity is what people connect with, I believe. And we can have very quiet, very mild, fairly reserved authenticity that people still connect really strongly with. This is just an in-your-face kind of brand of authenticity. And while I was doing that, I was expressing it in plain language. I don't know who has heard of plain language, plain English? Cool. That's pretty common in New Zealand. I'm going to talk to you about plain language in a few minutes as well, because that's what I train people in. It would be remiss of me not to have a little chat with you about what I think I'm a little bit of an expert in. So let's go back to that question I asked you earlier. What kind of chiropractor are you? Those words that you came up with, do you remember them? Bring them back to your mind again. At what point do people know that? I asked you that question, you thought about it. Do they know that when they meet you the first time? Do they know that when they've met with you for 5 sessions? Do they know that when they first go on your website or read some marketing material? Do they know that when they pick up the phone and talk to your receptionist? At what point do they know that about you? And if you want them to know any of those things about you, could it happen at an earlier point? How are you expressing that? Is it through images? Is it through words? Is it, I don't know. How are you expressing it? So now we're going to do another little exercise, and this time it's going to take a bit more time, a bit more talking. If you just want to pair up with one person, that would be fine, so that then you can have a nice in-depth discussion and we'll have enough time for it. A reflective exercise. I want you to reflect on a few things. Just roll with me on this, okay? Number one, why chiropractic? That one shouldn't be too hard. What brought you here? What brought you to this career, this calling in your life, this thing that you are so passionate about and that you spend so much time doing? What brought you here? Then a separate question. Outside of your workspace, as well as in your workspace, in your entire life, what do you surround yourself with? Physical things, emotional things, spiritual things. What things do you surround yourself with? Just hold on to that. We're just kind of gathering in some data and then we'll bring it all together. What do you talk about most? All day, every day. From when you get up in the morning till you go to bed at night, whether you're at the supermarket or you're at a social club, what do you spend most time talking about? What are the themes that come up again and again? And how do people describe you? Especially the ones that know you best. What words do they use to describe you? What would they say about you? Are we good to have this discussion? Right, I'm going to give you 2 songs this time so that you can have a nice work systematically through those questions. Okay. Let's get for a wee while actually, but I don't know if you were still on topic or if you moved on. So I figured 2 songs was a pretty good length of time. I'm going to ask again if anyone wants to reflect a little bit. You don't have to answer those questions directly, but what was it like talking about those things? Easy, hard? What did you think about? I thought I'd pick on Gary because I met you earlier and I know your name. You want to reflect, just what was that exercise like?
It's not awfully stuck from this.
Oh, then
No,
you're
I
welcome.
think what's fantastic is, without being condescending, for the younger chiropractors here who have yet to find their voice, their identity, you showing your story, the transition from 5 years into what you are now. Fantastic message, And that's what this is about here, I think. It's about, I'm a writer as well as a chiropractor, so finding the voice to tell the story, finding your voice is what's important, and that's where the authenticity comes in. So.
Thank you so much. I'll pay you later. That was good. Anybody else? Got some reflection? Sheridan, can I ask you again? Sherry, can I ask you again?
I think that it takes a little bit of confidence to step into yourself.
Yes.
And I think as students here and new grads and those who are younger in the profession, I think seeing you do what you're doing and not be afraid is so crucial. Because why wait 20 years to step into yourself? When, if you let go of the fear, which is false evidence appearing real, and just step into yourself and your authenticity now and find your message, you can save a hell of a lot of time.
That's true. I do have a thank you for that. I have a caveat. I didn't start this journey until I was 38. I don't know if I would have been ready before then. But having said that, the more I can help other people figure out, based on my own reflections, how this happened, if you could start it earlier, great. Absolutely. And does it take courage? Yes. Yes, 100%. Takes the ability of me being able to laugh up here when you didn't all get up like rock stars, and that's the thing that's going to stay with me forever, isn't it? The eye of the tiger failed badly. It's all right, I have some regular failures. I can roll with those too. If I had tried to do this 5 years ago, I would have ended up in a messy puddle in a corner somewhere. There's no way I would have been able to stand like this. It had to develop, but I was open to it developing. And I did a lot of work in self-awareness. I did lots of things to help me figure out more about who I am so that I could authentically be who I am and own it and be happy about it. In particular, 2 of those questions there, what do you surround yourself with and what do you talk most about, are from a values exercise by DeMartini. Any of you have heard of DeMartini? And that exercise, I went through, you can download it free off the internet, it's a questionnaire and you can ask yourself a bunch of questions. They're behavioural questions to help us figure out what our values are. As opposed to just going and asking someone, what are your values? Because you know what we all say? My family. Because what kind of douchebag doesn't value their family? Because of course we do, of course, there's no question about that. But we find it harder to drill down to some other things that really are key drivers for us. And when I asked myself those 2 questions and a bunch of others, I figured out that I was incredibly driven by wanting to reduce stress in my life. I put a lot of effort and money and time into keeping things calm. Because I don't cope well when they're not. I did not know that that was something that I valued. I told one of my best friends who happens to be my cousin, and she was like, duh, seriously? No, we all knew that about you, but I didn't know that. Another thing that I realized during that particular exercise was that I place a lot of value and I'm very driven by wanting to just have happiness around me. Now that doesn't mean that I seek happiness to go and be part of it. I want to make everyone around me happy, which is beautiful, and as a parent, the most painful thing on the planet. Because you can't make your kids happy 24/7. If you do, when they're kids, they're going to be miserable adults. So that explains why I find parenting so hard. So doing the work on myself and answering some of these questions, I just wanted to get you started on those questions, and I'd really encourage the younger ones in the room to do some work around that stuff. Because it was once I learned more about my values, my beliefs, and the things that drove me, that I could then figure out what I could capitalize on. Another exercise that I did told me that empathy is one of my superpowers. And again, everyone around me was like, well, duh, but I didn't realise that. I thought I was too sensitive because I wear my heart on my sleeve and I'm affected and impacted deeply by emotions, not only my own, but those around me. And once I realised that that actually wasn't a weakness, that that was like my superpower, then I could capitalise on it. It's one of the things that makes me a good trainer, good teacher, because I understand what's going on in the room. So that's why I wanted you to think about those questions. So we go back to the original. What kind of chiropractor are you? You've thought about some words to describe yourself. You've thought about at what point do people know that? You've thought about how you're expressing that. How are you showing it to people? Now let's talk about what words you're using, because that's where my specialty comes in. So about 20-something years ago, I got a master's degree in creative writing in the United States, and I've always been a writer, loved writing. Until 5 years ago, when I learned about this thing called plain language, I did all the good writerly things, which is basically to use lots of words. We now know that the most successful written communication happens when you use fewer words, far, far fewer words. And when you use visuals, and when you actually talk to people instead of writing things down, or you use video to make up for that inability to talk to people face to face. So, words matter, and the way that you write counts. Now, why am I talking to you about writing? I assume that you have websites, marketing material, or you work for a practice that has those things, you've got a bit of a bio about yourself. There are words written about you to tell the world who you are. Those words matter. The words that you use when you are emailing people to communicate with them, those words matter. The words that you use in any communications between your practice and the people that you help, those words matter. Now, I had a quick look around at some chiropractic websites. I was pretty impressed, actually. Lots of really good conversational voice, just like the voice we heard in the Talk the Tick, explaining complex information to lay people like me, numpties like me, is what I tell all the technical people that I work with. You have to be able to explain what you know as an expert to a numpty like me. That's pretty much what we're talking about, and I don't mean it in a bad way. We just don't have the same expertise that you do. The words that you use are important, and there's a problem around that, because when we want to sound professional, we switch back to a very traditional kind of approach, because if I am professional, I must write in a professional way, and traditionally, professional equals formal. And do you know what the formal written voice does? It turns us off. Completely 100%. What am I talking about by a formal voice? It's a voice that's influenced by academia, and we've pretty much all had some tertiary education, right? We've spent all the hours the night before the assignments were due writing them. That's how it goes, right? Yeah. Nobody even owned that. Come on, people, you know it's the truth. It's been influenced by science. When we're expressing scientific concepts, we use a very formal voice and high technical language. It's been influenced by lawyers, because we want to keep ourselves safe and not end up in court, so you must write things in a lawyerly way. Can't say that, you're going to get in trouble. Perhaps it's been influenced by the medical model. And we get influenced by the people that have been there before us. So we come into our careers at some stage, there are people there doing the do already, and they're doing things in a certain way, so we figure that must be the right way to do it, and so we take it on. Unfortunately, that means that we take on some really old-fashioned practices in terms of the way that we write and the way that we express ideas. Now, your front-facing text and copy, your websites, are in a pretty good conversational voice. I thought they were pretty awesome. I was quite impressed. But I don't know what's happening in the letters and things that go to your clients, or the emails, or those personal communications, because that's often where this formal voice comes in. I'm going to talk a bit more about that in a moment. Another reason why we do things in an old-fashioned way in our writing is because there are more old examples around us than new examples. And so we look at something that's in writing and go, well, that must be the correct way to do it. That must be the correct voice to use. That's what's professional. Therefore, I will write in that formal way. That's traditionally given us things like this. Dear practice member, we are writing to advise you of our upcoming transition to new premises. We trust this will not be an inconvenience to our practice members and appreciate your continued patronage. Don't I sound professional? As much as I absolutely love and respect people in administrative roles because they keep the world running and we need them, it's often those people who feel the need to put on a professional voice like this and are the ones that are sometimes communicating on our behalf. But maybe we are the ones doing this. Maybe it's not someone else. What we should be saying is, hi there, just let you know we're moving to a beautiful new building next week. It's not too far away. Thanks for working with us. We hope we'll see you again soon. Same message, I mean, the same intent is there. Tell you that we're moving, try not to upset you too much. One of them achieves that far better than the other one does. Chiropractic care facilitates well-being from a holistic perspective and focuses primarily on the use of corrective adjustments for maintaining optimal nervous system performance. You would not say something like that. As chiropractors, we don't just care for your back, we help improve your overall wellness, starting with your central nervous system, the master controller for your whole body. I did get that master controller thing off a website here in New Zealand. I won't say who from. I thought it was pretty good. Maybe it's just the normal language you guys already use. So the problems with if we are not writing in a really natural, really authentic, really comfortable, human kind of voice is that if we think that professional means a formal voice, formal means longer. People don't read long stuff. We don't read long stuff unless it's a novel or something that we're really, really engaged in, something that we're really interested in. And so that means it's boring to us. So we're less likely to read it. Formal equals less natural. That means it's harder for us to write, slower for us to write. In businesses that I go into, the amount of time that can be saved when people give themselves permission to just write like human beings again, they can at least 6 times speed up their writing. Make it 6 times faster. And there's actually research to support that. The formal and academic kind of voice and the words that we use and the sentence constructions and the big long paragraphs and pages of text, that's really hard for someone to read and process and understand. We have to work hard, we have to wade through it. You know, the ones where you get the highlighter out and your gumboots on. It's harder to read even if you're smart and educated. I do a lot of work with engineers, and I used to usually get someone in the room who'd be like, yes, but you know, we've got all the education so we can understand this piece of paper in front of us. And I go, yes, that's true. But do you really want to work hard to read it if it could have been written in a way where you could read it simply? So are you communicating words through writing to your people in ways that it's really easy for them to access, really easy for them to understand, and they can just have a quick browse through it and connect with you? That's what I would want for you. Harder to read equals less likely to be read, and if you guys are writing marketing or promotional material for your practice and your services, and people aren't reading it, then you're missing out on engagement with those people. The people who do come to see you might be less likely to come back if you're trying to send them reminders to come back and get their attention and get their buy-in again. And that means a limited ability for you to help others to be well. So what I want to say to you is think about the words that we're using, because they really can have a big impact on your ability to reach people and connect with people and engage with people. So what's the solution? Well, we know from lots of research, plain language is this thing that's been around for about 50 years. It's not new. The World Health Organization uses plain language, the Centre for Disease Control, the OECD, the aerospace and defense industry. In 2010, Barack Obama's government passed the US Federal Plain Language Act. It's actually in legislation that the US federal government documents that are to be accessed by the public had to, from that point onwards, be written using plain language. In other words, accessible, easy to understand words and approaches to writing. We also know instinctively as readers what we want to read. When you get an email, you don't want to see a solid wall of text. You want to see something where you get quick, easy answers because you've got another 50 or 100 emails waiting. You want to get through that quickly. When you pick up something to learn about a new business, or you're surfing the web and you're looking for a solution to a problem, you want to be able to read quickly and find your answers. Or figure out, oh, this page hasn't got the answers, and then move on to the next one. You don't want to spend a lot of time figuring that out. So instinctively as readers, We know what's good writing, but when we write, we forget. So we need to be braver as writers to do things that we think might be a little bit scary. And I say this to the younger ones especially, because when we're young in our careers, we want to be taken seriously, we want to look professional, make a good impression, and we feel like using big words and a formal kind of voice does that for us. And what I can tell you is that if you trust your gut and you back yourself, the authenticity wins. And I'm going to share some research with you around that. There is some other good news here, and that is that the New Zealand Chiropractic Board advertising policy requires you to use this thing, plain language. You all knew that, right? Yes, of course you did. Look, I even took a screenshot. Chiropractic advertising must be presented in a manner that is accurate, balanced, and not misleading, and it must use plain language. That is on the bottom of page 1 of that policy. Didn't even have to read too far to find it. That made me happy. What does this mean? How do we do it? You should write more like the way that you speak. If you've written a letter to someone or an email to someone or a piece of material that's going on a website or a newsletter or something, an e-newsletter, which by the way I think is the most useless name on the planet. E-newsletter, it came into my inbox. I know it came via e-methods. Yeah. Anyway. We know that if you write in a more natural conversational voice, it engenders confidence. That's good for us. People are more likely to trust you. And here is a PhD dissertation that supports that from Texas in 2013. We like people who are easy to read. Or, if you want to use the flash words, the influence of processing fluency in impression formation. It's not the only research to support that. We've got lots of research. This is just one that I grabbed to show you. We like people more if we can hear their voice in what we read. We should use everyday words. If you write a word that you wouldn't say to someone's face, you should stop. That should be big warning bells, and you should be like, why am I using this word? Because usually it's just to put forward a tone or present a kind of persona. You know, I'm sure you're not saying pursuant to, but that's my favourite, because I see it in emails. Pursuant to our conversation. I'm like, really? Pursuant to doing the dishes, it's bedtime. It's not a word we use in conversation. So just check yourself. Are you writing words that you don't say out loud? And if so, why? And are they the best ones? Because I work with a lot of technical experts as a technical writer, and if they are watching me type on my screen when I'm trying to take the information that they know about their area of expertise, and I'm trying to type it, and they're watching the screen, they try to write the sentences, and they get really complex and difficult. But if I close my laptop and go, look, just talk to me like a numpty, and explain the subject to me like I've never heard about it before, because usually I haven't, then they go, oh, well, okay, well, here's what you need to know. You need to understand this first, and then you can do this, and then you've got a couple of choices of A and B, and you choose A for this reason and B for that reason. So I go, cool, and I type it up, and I show it to them and go, have I got it right? And they go, wow, like I just did something magic. And all I did was write their words down. Because when we explain things to each other face to face, we do it quite simply. But when we start writing, there's a little switch that we flick in our heads. So people trust you more, I mentioned that. So here's another study. It's the Oppenheimer study from Princeton. It must be a good study, right? Sounds very serious. Consequences of erudite vernacular utilized irrespective of necessity. Or in other words, the problems with using long words needlessly. Love it. One of the things that the study showed is that the more high-level language you use, the more difficult words, the more multisyllabic words, the less intelligent a general audience thinks that you are. Now, if you're talking to an audience of your peers, that's a different thing, to an extent. We think that people who use too many big words maybe aren't as smart as they're making themselves out to be. It's the exact opposite of what we always thought. How many times have we sat there with a thesaurus trying to sound smart? Easy to read equals easy to agree, approve, respond, and act. Here's another study. If it's hard to read, it's hard to do. There's research to tell us. If we have to read something and it takes work, we are less likely to follow through with the actions or the outcomes from whatever it is that we've read. That applies to emails. You want someone to do something for you, you send them an email. If they can't understand exactly what you're asking, they're far less likely to do it in a hurry. So here's my kind of finishing piece of advice to you. Next time you are writing something or reviewing something in your practice that has been written, ask these questions. Is it authentic? Is it true to who you guys are and what you're doing? Does it represent the kind of chiropractor you are? Are those words you would say out loud? Do these words and this voice encourage strong, ongoing relationships? Because I promise you that the overly formal, traditionally professional, businessy voice doesn't. It turns people off. It causes all kinds of problems. And ultimately, do I sound like a jerk? Because when we put on a formal voice, unfortunately that tends to be the outcome. You kind of just sound like a jerk. And I can tell you guys aren't. Well, maybe one or two in the room, but I won't point those out. The rest of you look really, just